Howdy folks, does this look like an old-fashioned to you? Well, it kind of is. So today we're going to be talking about a drink that appears in the Death & Company Cocktail Codex book under the old-fashioned section. But is it really an old-fashioned? Now, if you're not familiar with the Cocktail Codex, this is a pretty interesting book that was put out by the folks who ran the Death & Company cocktail bar, great bar. And their thesis is that there's only 6 drinks and they can all fit into 6 different categories. They really pared down what sorts of cocktails there can be. It's a pretty interesting read if you're into that sort of thing. Now to start this off, we're going to do a little bit of history. When cocktails first came about, they were basically just a base spirit, a little sugar, and some bitters, and that's it. Now as cocktails got more popular and bartenders started expanding what a cocktail was, and you started to get things like crustas and improved cocktails and things like that, you started to get people who preferred the old, simpler style of cocktail, and those started to be known as old-fashioned cocktails. So that's how we get the name old-fashioned cocktail today, which now still means base spirit, sugar, and bitters. Now they're usually made with whiskey these days, but back when they were invented, it could be anything. So it would be a gin cocktail, would be gin, sugar, and bitters, a whiskey cocktail, or a vermouth cocktail. Now, in modern times, if you looked at a vermouth cocktail, just vermouth, sugar, and bitters, it wouldn't look very much like an old-fashioned. You know, an old-fashioned is thought of as a boozy drink with a big ice cube, not a low ABV herbal drink in a coupe. But, as they point out in the Cocktail Codex, it is still just a base with a little sugar and some bitters, and so it follows the same template as an old-fashioned. So those Death & Company folks, they are onto something. Though I normally think of a vermouth cocktail as its own category, like a vermouth-based cocktail. So all of this is just to say that today we're going to be making 2 vermouth-based cocktails. One's just your basic vermouth cocktail, which actually you can use as a template to make any variety of drinks. And the other is a Chrysanthemum, another vermouth-based cocktail, both of which are in the Cocktail Codex in the old-fashioned section. But in my mind, they're really vermouth cocktails, and vermouth cocktails get put in their own category. That's just me. First of all, let's just talk about how underappreciated the vermouth cocktail is. It is a low ABV, herbal, delicious, easy to make classic drink that people should be making more often. But it can also be used as a template, much like they say at the Death & Company about Mr. Potato Head swapping in different ingredients. You could do that with this drink. Swap out different vermouths, swap out different sweeteners or bitters. You can really get a wide variety of tastes. So, to make today's vermouth cocktail, I'm using Cochi Torino because it's what I have on hand. I would love to make this cocktail 10 different ways with 10 different vermouths and just hone in on my perfect recipe. I haven't really been able to do that. As a home bartender, it's hard to have a whole bunch of different vermouths open at the same time because they do eventually go bad. But someday I will make that happen. Anyhow, this cocktail is 2 ounces of vermouth. A 1/4 ounce of simple syrup is in the classic recipe. The classic recipe calls for a dash of Angostura. We're going to do Angostura and orange. I'm going to swap out the simple syrup for a bar spoon of maraschino. I feel like that works really well. And to dry this out just a little bit more, because that vermouth is kind of sweet, I'm going to put in a bar spoon of Salers gentian liqueur. So let's mix it up. Did it. Great job. Let's give this a taste. I mean, I find these delightful. A little maraschino sweetens it up just a bit. It's got such a nice herbal complexity. But you can really play around with this so much. It's really sort of forgiving and flexible in terms of what ingredients you put in. You could even do a perfect version. You could split it with dry and sweet vermouth. See how you like that. It'd be a little drier, delicious. Now if this was a little too thin for you, you could add in a 1/4 ounce of vodka, give it a little oomph. I think that would be delicious. I love playing around with these, And I've got another vermouth-based classic that I can show you. It's called the Chrysanthemum. It's in the Savoy book, and it's also in the Cocktail Codex in the old-fashioned section. Here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna take 2 ounces of dry vermouth. I've got Dolan Dry. Get an ounce of Benedictine. The recipe calls for 3 dashes of absinthe. I'm doing like a dropper's full. And I'm gonna take my own advice. I'm gonna go ahead and put in a 1/4 ounce of vodka just to thin out that Benedictine a little bit, which is a little bit cloying. All right, and we're gonna stir this one. Again, Chrysanthemum cocktail. Let's give this a shot. I love Benedictine. I think it's delicious. It's got such a nice, like, honey sweetened herbal quality. It plays really nicely with the Sweet Vermouth. Sweet Vermouth is also herbal, but in a slightly different way, where it hits you at different times in the palate. I think that was a great idea to put some vodka in. Just sort of lengthens it a little. Just boosts it up a little bit, makes it a little less flabby, I guess. And the absinthe, you know, this could have had a little more absinthe maybe, but I'm gonna say absinthe to taste. If you like absinthe, put in a lot. If you don't, well, put in a little less. Okay, I guess that's about it. I wanna encourage everyone to go out and make a vermouth cocktail. Mess around, have some fun, try different sweeteners. That's what this hobby is all about, really. And I know you've got some vermouth sitting in your fridge. If you come up with a good version of this, put it on Instagram, tag me and let me know. I want to hear about it. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.